Using the divide and conquer, but it will not work anymore. Shabab Libya says, Gaddafi speaking, you can only imagine what he had to do to the people of Libya to stay in power for 42 years. And this from one tweeter who can't believe quite what she's heard. Diseased rats who take pills to begin a revolution. I make revolutions. And one tweet which mirrors what many seem to be thinking. This is truly unbelievable. Am I in some kind of parallel universe? The world has its jaw dropped right now. And now we have been hearing a lot on those mercenaries in Libya. Just take a look at this video. The Libyan youth movement says the protesters in Gharian, that's in western Libya, have caught foreign mercenaries. Now, some appear to be sifting through their items. We cannot, of course, verify this independently, but the footage is very dramatic. You can keep up to date with the latest, of course, including reports from AlJazeera reporters right now on the border with Libya. It's all on our website. Take a look at it for yourselves. That's aljazeera.net/English. Also, our live blog, a play-by-play of everything coming out of Libya, including some great opinion, analysis and reporting. So get involved on our website. So much of our reporting from Libya has come to you. Stick with us from the latest.
Imran, thanks very much indeed. Now, let's just recap on the events of the past few hours. Lawrence Lee has a wrap-up of the day.
Having kept mostly silent for day after day, the Libyan leader was suddenly, astonishingly, not short of words on the crisis in his country. In an address which will no doubt be described as rambling by many commentators, he variously blamed the media, America, Britain, Italy, and hallucinogenic drugs forced on young protesters for causing the trouble in his country. It was a speech long on emotion, and he tried his hardest to appeal to anti-colonialist sentiment in Libya. But behind all the anger, there seemed to be one key message. He had created Libya. He would never leave.
I will not leave the country, and I will die as a martyr at the end.
All the same, the pressure on him is now immense. Several major cities across Libya under the control of the opposition. If anything, the violence meted out to the protesters seems to have been a tactical mistake by Gaddafi's regime, simply hardening the popular resolve. There have been many who've said there's no point backing down now because they'd simply be killed anyway. Images of the dead continue to surface, many extremely gruesome, some people torn limb from limb, adding to allegations that the military haven't only been using gunfire, but artillery as well.
We saw bodies divided in 3-4 parts. We saw only legs and only hands. And we saw really very bad kind of injuries here.
It's also ironic that Gaddafi, who for decades has styled himself as a saviour of the pan-Arab world, appears now so reviled across the region. From Dubai to Baghdad, ordinary Arabs have been expressing solidarity with the uprising, saying they hope the people bring their leader down.
I hope they rip him apart in the Green Square. I hope all the Libyan people get him and join together.
Libyan people have achieved the impossible, and Libya is about to get rid of this schizophrenic dictator. People are stronger than the tyrants.
Outside the allegations of crimes against humanity, there's another crisis somewhere on the horizon. These Egyptian migrant workers fled over the border from Libya, claiming mercenaries were firing indiscriminately. If the violence gets worse, a refugee crisis wouldn't be a surprise. Gaddafi asked the people, if they love him, to take to the streets and take on the greasy rats of the opposition. Otherwise, he said, America could occupy Libya like Afghanistan. Worryingly for the protesters, he also brandished his famous Green Book, pointing out that enemies of the country should be put to death. He did also mention the words constitutional reform at one point, but somehow it was all lost in the noise. Lawrence Lee, Al Jazeera.
Well, Gaddafi's speech went on for more than an hour, and during that time, some other developments occurring. In regard to what's happening in Libya, let's just bring you up to date with some of the key points. A Libyan naval vessel has been said to be seen in waters near Malta, and there are reports that it may have defected or be attempting to defect. The Arab League is meeting in Cairo right now to discuss what's going on in Libya. The EU has responded, saying it is suspending a framework trade agreement that it had been negotiating with Libya. Meanwhile, Turkey has sent 2 Sea-Cat rescue ships to evacuate its citizens from Libya. The Netherlands is also sending a plane to help evacuate Dutch nationals. And according to Italian officials, marine oil terminals in Libya have halted operations. The United Nations Human Rights Chief has raised the possibility of a trial for crimes against humanity in Libya, and the United Nations Security Council will be holding a meeting behind closed doors in a short while as well. They've already been meeting so far today, not specifically on Libya, but discussing issues relating to Libya's special representative to the UN's Security Council has claimed he is not against Gaddafi, but he wants the bloodshed to stop. Earlier, the UN's Secretary General, Ban Ki-moon, made his feelings clear about the situation in Libya.
I have seen very disturbing and shocking scenes where Libyan authorities have been firing at demonstrators from the warplanes and helicopters. This is unacceptable. This must stop immediately. This is a serious violation of international humanitarian law.
All right, all eyes are on the United Nations right now. Let's go to New York and Scott Heidler for an update on this. Scott, we've heard there have been some meetings already today, and specifically meetings of the Security Council about this due today as well. What's the latest?
Yeah, Taimur. Yeah, there was a procedural meeting at 9 a.m. local time here in New York, and that just kind of set the stage for the main meeting on Libya that's set for 3 p.m., and that's 20 GMT, just about 2.5 hours from now. And there's a very interesting point to bring up for this. There's going to be a presentation from the chief political officer here at the United Nations, but then there's also going to be a representative from the Libyan mission to the United Nations. Before just about maybe 3-4 hours ago, we thought that'd be the deputy ambassador who came out yesterday, did not resign, but came out hard against Gaddafi and issued a letter saying certain things that, he should step down, the violence should stop immediately, and there should be a no-fly zone imposed, and that the international community needs to get involved immediately. But then, just this morning, the ambassador, the head of the mission, Libyan mission to the United Nations, he showed up. He was gone for 3 days. We didn't see him since last Friday. He arrived and had a much different tone. It set a much different tone. He didn't ask for Gaddafi to step down. He said that he wanted the bloodshed to stop, but he is with Gaddafi, and that he did not support a no-fly zone. So right now, between now and in 2.5 hours, when they make this presentation to the Security Council, we don't know exactly if it's going to be the deputy head of mission or the head of mission, and by what I just said, you can tell they're very different approaches from the Libyan mission, so it'll be interesting to see which one shows up at this meeting at 20 GMT.
Are we expecting, though, Scott, for this meeting to yield any substantive policy?
We're not certain, but probably not, because when you talk about, how quickly this is all unfolded, most likely, and this is what we're expecting out of this meeting, that there will be some kind of joint statement from the Security Council, because of the 15 members on the Security Council, the 5 permanent members. You always have a little bit of jockeying of wording when it comes to some kind of official statement from the Security Council. It's probably going to be a little bit more clear-cut because of the situation in Libya, but is exactly what the next